Joining me on the line is a longtime Dallas area reporter. You can catch his writing on the Dallas Morning News. You can see it on the undefeated.com. He's also one half of the Jam Session podcast and president of JJT Media Group, Mr. Jean-Jacques Taylor. Hello, sir.
What up, man?
Nothing much, man. I feel privileged to have you on. Thank you for taking out the time, man. I want to jump right into this. Last week, Dak Prescott signed a big deal. 4 years, what is it, $160 million?
Right.
This deal could have happened last year. It could have happened during the season. Jerry Jones could have opted to franchise tag Dak and wait and see if he recovered from his gruesome injury. But it's happening now, and I'm asking you, why? Why so? Why the timing? Why now?
Oh, I think it was, whenever you got a deal like that, it happened now because if Dak goes to free agent, he's not coming back because the money's too big. So if you're the Cowboys and you want him back, then you have to acquiesce and get him signed. If you're Dak and you want to play in Dallas, then at some point you have to figure out how much is enough, because the reality is if you dip into free agency, somebody's going to blow you away with the amount of money that they offer you. And as you're going through, and it had to be now as opposed to July, because if you get close to the season, you're like, well, I'm just a season away from free agency. Why wouldn't I check it out? So now, if it was ever going to get done, now made sense for it to get done because the timing was right. And ultimately, both sides got what they want, which is what a deal is all about. Dak got the most money in the first year ever, $75 million. He got the highest guarantee ever, $126 million. His average is $40 million, which makes him the second highest paid quarterback. The Cowboys got what they want, which was a 6-year deal that voids the 4, so they can spread his signing bonus out over 6 years. In their mind, now this is key, it's their mind, so it doesn't matter. It's like everybody else. We got our own version of reality. Yes. In their mind, they got the 5-year deal that they wanted. A franchise year last year at $31 million, and then a 4-year contract at $160. So in their mind, they got him for 5 years and $191 million. So everybody's happy, so to speak. Right. Deal got done, and we can do this whole thing again in 2.5 years.
Now, it's interesting you said that if Dak made it to free agency, he was leaving, because I thought Dallas would have the advantage. Not only could we give him money in free agency, but you're not walking away from being the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. So I thought
Why not?
They're on national TV every week. Like, if you're talking about a brand, you get the money plus the brand. When I look around, Tony Romo getting big money in TV, Troy Aikman getting big money in TV. There's advantages to being a Dallas Cowboys quarterback. He wasn't walking away in free agency.
That's the bullshit that the Cowboys sell people. I mean, there's truth to it, but people want, one has nothing to do with the other. Those are all separate. They don't have to do with anything. Okay. Because you can be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys and suck like Quincy Carter and don't get nothing.
Well, we know Dak doesn't suck.
I mean, they had several guys between Tony Romo who didn't get nothing. And so if you get hurt in the process or you don't play as good as you should, you don't reap all those benefits. There's some benefit to it, but the Cowboys always like to sell that. The Cowboys are the cheapest rich organization you'll ever find. When they get around to it, they take care of you. But the reason this deal took so long is they had to accept the fact they're going to get their ass kicked on the deal. Mm-hmm. And once they did that, it got done. Until then, they didn't want to give 4 years. They wanted it to be 5. So it was a bunch of give and take until ultimately he was at the end of the rope and it had to get done, or he was going to bounce. And the thing about bouncing is you're not guaranteed to find another quarterback. Right. I mean, the Miami Dolphins been looking for the next Dan Marino for 20 years, maybe 30 years. The Buffalo Bills been looking for a quarterback to replace Jim Kelly since 1998, and they just got one. The Chicago Bears, they've been looking for a quarterback forever. Right. I mean, the New York Jets, they had a quarterback since Broadway Joe.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So you don't have to be Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. You don't have to be Peyton Manning 1 year, and then you find Andrew Luck. You don't have to go Montana to Young, because San Francisco then went looking for a quarterback since Steve Young. Yes. So it doesn't have to be like, well, we just going to get another one in the draft. Quarterbacks in the draft bust all the time, whether you take them number 1, top 5. Look at Carson Wentz. Look at Jameis Winston. Look at Marcus Mariota. So if you have one that you think can play, then it's in your best interest to get that dude signed.
Right. You mentioned that both parties seemingly got what they want, or at least that's the way they're going to spin it. Dak got his money. Jerry Jones got his quarterback. What do you think? Is there winners and losers in this deal, or everybody came out happy?
Everybody's fine. Dak got his money. Cowboys got their quarterback. Now it's can they put a team around him and try to win?
And that's a great question, because when I saw this, just a casual fan, I thought the signing of Dak was kind of like the death knell signaling the end of the Cowboys' chances at a Super Bowl. When I look around, it's like the young guys, they have to win before they get a big deal. Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco. This was the end to me from what I see. What do you think this means for the Cowboys Super Bowl championship chances?
This is what I think, man. I think people need to think outside the box. And if you think outside the box, you can come to your own conclusions. And I was looking up something, because here's what I'm getting at. That's a narrative. That's an easy to fit narrative.
It's not just
that once you get paid. See, the trick of the question is once you get paid, you don't win the Super Bowl. Well, there's only one Super Bowl winner, so that really shouldn't be the question. Like, I'm just gonna ask the question. I'm just asking the question. Did the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl because Pat Mahomes made $45 million a year? Is that why they lost?
My answer? Possibly. Yeah. I'm not too versed in the roster. A second part to that, Patrick Mahomes is somebody we believe, or many believe, is possibly the greatest football ever. So his fall from grace is a little bit different than other players.
That's not the question.
Okay.
Did they lose because Pat Mahomes made $45 million? That's a yes or no question. Possibly is not one of the answers.
That possibly is an answer, because I've seen him get chased around like never before. Maybe his money took away from the offensive line. I don't know, sir. Mr. Taylor, I don't know. So it's to me, it's a possibly.
Now, they had two of their 2 stars were hurt and didn't play.
Okay.
Matt Ryan up 28-3 in the Super Bowl. When that happened, I'm looking on my chart. He was one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the National Football League. Did they lose that because Matt Ryan made $45 million? Or whatever he was making? I would say no. And here's the point. The point is not whether you win the Super Bowl or not. I know that sounds crazy. That's not really the point. The point is, are you putting your team in contention to win a Super Bowl every year? That's the question. You play to try to get into the tournament, and then can we get hot and win the Super Bowl? All right? That's really what the goal is. Can we be a contender every year? Because if we bang on the door enough times, we'll win a Super Bowl. Okay? If you look at the highest paid quarterbacks last year, Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, 6th highest paid quarterback. The year before that, this is just a championship game, but Big Ben, he was one of the highest paid quarterbacks. If you look at the teams that won the most games in the league last year, the vast majority of them either had the highest paid quarterback in the league, or had a guy like Josh Allen on his rookie deal, who will be what in the next year?
One of the highest paid?
One of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. Mm-hmm. So the question is, do you have a quarterback who can put you in contention to win? Dak can do that. I don't know if he will, but he can. Mm-hmm. And so to me, the money thing is just a cute little convenient narrative because it hasn't happened as much. But the money doesn't stop you from winning. And if it doesn't stop you from winning ultimately, then it doesn't stop you from winning the Super Bowl because you're in contention. You're in the Super Bowl. You just didn't win it.
Mr. Taylor, you've been down covering the Cowboys for a long time now, man. What was it like covering those Super Bowl championships, specifically being around primetime Deion Sanders?
Well, I tell people this all the time, man. I did every career has some. If you reach a certain level of success, every career has some good fortune in it, some divine intervention, some luck, however you choose to do it. Mine is no different. Mine had a little bit of all of that in it, and so the point of that is, in my mind, I did a jump like Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett, going straight from high school to the NBA. I basically went from covering high schools to covering the Cowboys. Okay. I did a little bit of Rangers in there for just a little bit, but I basically went from covering high schools to covering the Cowboys, which is a huge jump anyway. And at the Dallas Morning News, which at that point was probably one of the top 2 or 3 papers in the country, it was a gargantuan jump. And the whole point of all of that is I don't really remember a lot from the 1995 season because it was my first season. Right. And I spent so much time just trying to figure out the whole deal that I don't really have a whole lot of memories from that first year. But I do remember covering Deion, and I remember, at one level, covering Deion was not any different than covering Troy, Emmett, and Mike. They all rock stars. They all got their own thing. But I've been talking about Deion a lot lately because I probably have, as reporters, I probably have more access to Deion than anybody in the country. And so I tell people all the time how that happened. And what happened was one of my strengths is reading people, figuring out who they are and what they're all about. It's just a gift. It's just what I do. And so Deion used to talk after games, and he might talk in the locker room every 3 or 4 weeks. And I want to say this was 96. I think it was 96. And I think at that time he was leading the league in punt returns. And so I went up to him and I was like, yo, I know you don't really like to talk, but you're leading the league in punt returns. I thought you might want to throw some shine on your blockers, the guys doing that work for you. And he was like, yeah, I'll do that. What you got? So we sat down, we talked, and I went through almost everybody on the punt return team. Got up, wrote the story a couple days later, brought the paper to him. Next time I saw him in the locker room, gave him the paper, said, hey, here's what I wrote. Then I turned and left. And then he found me whenever the next time he saw me. He was like, yo, that was a good story you wrote. Anytime you need something, come holler at me. And so that's kind of how it started. And I want to say and so we were just kind of cool after that. And at some point later, the years get confused. This is a long time ago. But he asked me to ghostwrite a column for him when he was writing a column for the paper in North Fort Myers, where he grew up. Mm-hmm. And he called me up one day and asked me to ghostwrite the column for him. So I would talk to him every week about these different topics, very rarely about football, these different topics on life. And then I would write it in his voice. And then I'd send it to him, yo, what you think? And he'd be like, oh, change this and it's good, or nah, this is perfect, or whatever. And we did that for like a year and a half, something like that. And, I can't tell you when the relationship just kind of changed, but it just kind of shifted, and so then I became a guy that he trusted because he used to call me Black Man with a Pen all the time. Okay. And I cover him now for the Undefeated because, again, I'm one of the few people who has access to him. And so we were in the locker room at Jackson State, and we were going somewhere, and he stopped to say something to a couple players. And he said, "Hey, this is my boy Jacques, a reporter. He might be around a little bit during the season." And they looked at him kind of crazy. And he said, "Oh, no, he a good dude." He said, "I've been knowing him since I played for the Cowboys, and he's been very consistent the whole time I've known him."
Dope.
And I was like, "Oh, is that what it is?"
Yeah.
And so we were talking later. It's like, yeah, man, it's the consistency. You the same today, yesterday, tomorrow. I don't have to worry about you. I can say stuff around you that I know ain't going no further if it doesn't need to be.
Right.
If so it's just that. That's how we got to be tight over the years, and it's just kind of blossomed from there. Because I was telling my son, who's 17, I don't know, sometime in the last month, I was talking about the importance of developing and maintaining and nurturing relationships.
Yes.
Because I was like, I got money in my pocket right now from working from a dude I've known 25 years. And I'm really the only dude who can do this, because I did a story on him for the Dallas Morning News about what he's doing at Jackson State. Long story, because he won't talk to anybody at the Dallas Morning News.
Wow.
And so they hired me to do it because they know my relationship. So I tell them, "Hey, I'm working on this story for the morning news." And he goes, "They paying you, right?" I go, "Yeah." He go, "Okay, I got you."
Dope.
And so it's like that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I've had some time in professional locker rooms myself, and I know, working in the front office, and I know athletes, especially of that caliber, they appreciate individuals they can trust. And like Dion said about you, consistent. I know you got to get out of here. One more question.
No, we good.
When I seen Dion was being hired at Jackson State, I was kind of disappointed. I didn't really know what to make of it. Here's Dion, one of the greatest football players ever. Why does he have to go to that level? Why is it not the NFL? Why is it not big time college football? This is a man that played in the World Series, the Super Bowl, prime time. I want to see him under the brightest lights. So I didn't really know what to think of it. Like, how did you receive the information that he was going to coach at Jackson State, HBCU?
Now let's just keep it real. If you have a multi-million-dollar corporation, you,
yes, sir,
would you hire a dude that ain't never done it to run?
Yes, Deion Primetime Sanders, who played offense, defense, special teams, who you see him on the NFL Network. He breaks down the game. He has the respect of this new generation of players. Absolutely.
Okay. Let's take it a step further. Where would you rank Michael Jordan as NBA GMs and owners?
I would put him near the bottom.
There you go. Just because you can play don't mean you can coach. It don't mean you can judge talent.
But
because
Mr. Taylor,
Michael Jordan be sitting up there, I'm sure at times, somebody, why you just don't jump off at the free throw line, just dunk it, man. It ain't that hard.
Right.
And so, so you have to, I would tell you this: football is different than basketball, obviously. So if Deion Sanders were a basketball player, then yeah, it really wouldn't be that uncommon for him to go get a job as a coach with no other experience. We've seen it. Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, we've seen 1,000 NBA players get jobs at the highest level, the NBA level, with no experience coaching. Mm-hmm. You haven't seen that in the NFL. You haven't seen that in college football, where they have no experience. They just come off the street and start coaching. Because there's a lot of moving parts to that NFL gig. So I wasn't really, I thought it was a good fit for him. Plus, if he's as good as he thinks he is, he won't be there long. Okay. It's an environment where he can learn, and the stakes aren't like they are if you're at Ohio State or if you're at Clemson or if you're at Florida State. And I don't really have any doubt that he'll win. There's most people don't understand that there is a night and day difference between Deion Sanders and prime time.
Okay.
I mean, they're just like a lot of people got alter egos, but there's a distinct difference between Deion Sanders and prime time. Like I rarely see prime time.
Okay.
I see Deion all the time.
Right.
But I rarely see prime time. I mean, rarely see prime time. Because when I talk to him, he's Deion. I told this story from a long time ago, like 20 years ago. I was working on a story. It might have been that column I was working on. But anyway, I was talking to him on the phone. And he said, hold up. And then I heard, ah! Come on, man. Ah! And he came back. He said, okay, I'm good. I started laughing. He said, what you laughing at? I said, dude, you yelling at your kids the same way I'm yelling at my kids, man. Ain't no difference between us except you live in a little bigger house than me. And he started laughing. He's like, I've been trying to tell you that. So that's what I mean. I see Deion all the time. And people don't understand, and I tried to point this out in a couple pieces I write, because one of the things I do when I write about Deion is I try to bring out the stuff that people really don't see. And, people think about the athletic ability because, I mean, he got a great, when you think about it, it's really not hard to understand why he was a great player because he's 6'1", 195, 200, run 4'3", 4'2". Mm-hmm. I mean, corners just ain't that big and run like that. Mm-hmm. But the thing that made him great, and he told this great story to his kids because he was retelling it to me. What made him great was people didn't understand how hard he worked, not just practice, how much he studied. So there's a famous clip of where he picks off, he playing for the Falcons. No, he playing for the Niners. Picks off the Falcons, 93 yards to the house, and he talking to the Falcons sideline as he going down, score a touchdown. Mm-hmm. So his kids asked him about that play. And he said, let me tell you about that play. Y'all saw the play. Y'all saw me talking. Y'all saw me dancing. He said, nobody saw me call Michael Haynes, who used to play for the Falcons, during the week because he had retired, and spent an hour, 2 hours on the phone having him break down the Falcons offense for me. He said, y'all didn't see that I then took that information he gave me and studied film all week about the different things that they did inside the red zone based on those conversations. He said, y'all didn't see early in the game when I baited them 3 different times to see how they would react if I played coverage a certain way. And once I figured it out, like when I do this, they do that. He goes, I just waited because I knew next time they was in the red zone, they was going to do it because they'd done it all year. They'd seen how I reacted. I knew they were going to do it because they were like, oh, he's reacting like this when you run that play. So I waited. They came in the formation. I said, I got this. They ran it. I jumped it. I took it. And then I told them all of that down the sideline. Yo. He said, but you see the dance, you saw the interception, you saw the play, but that was a week's worth of work in one play. And so that's the part of Deion where most people don't get. And that work ethic is why he can be a successful head coach. Because he got 2 things he can do. He'll work people, but his best asset is really he has the ability to convince people to do things that they didn't think they could do. Mm-hmm. And so he gonna get players to come with him because why do you play college football? You play college football at the highest level for 2 reasons. Education ain't one of them. Win a national championship, get to the league.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right now in today's college football, If you don't go to Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, you ain't winning no national championship right now.
Yes, sir.
So, but you can still get to the league. Lots of folks get to the league. Deion can show you how to get to the league. Now that he's there, your games on national TV. The scouts are going to come through. They might not have came through before. They're coming through now. Mm-hmm. And so you can go to Jackson State and get to the league. And this is not going to be for every 5-star. He ain't gonna have that kind of team. But can he get one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, 1 5-star at the FCS level, that's worth 2 or 3 at the regular level. Can he get some 4 stars? Yeah, he already flipped one from Georgia. Mm-hmm. Wait till they start winning. Like, Jackson State been 23-44 the last 7 years. They ain't been over 500 since 2013. They winning now. They just beat Grambling. They was 14-point underdogs. They beat Grambling. They don't even have a team yet. They don't even have a team because their recruiting class, which was number 1 in FCS, they're not eligible to the fall. His son, who's a really good quarterback, ain't playing yet. And the cat who's playing is doing a solid job, but he can't throw. So they're having to run the ball a heck of a lot more than they want to run it because he can't throw. Or he can't throw consistently. He's gotten better, but he's not a consistent passer. So my suspicion is he's going to win. He's going to win big down there. And then it's just a matter of who's going to pull the trigger because, the thing about him is because he got money, he got more money you can spend in 2 or 3 lifetimes. Because he has that, you can't control him if you're a booster and an athletic director and a president. And so you have to come to grips with the fact that your normal way of doing business don't operate like that, because your threats have no effect on him because he's not worried about that. And if you can't get it done, he asks you for this, you can't get it done. Well, he'll pick up his phone, go through his Rolodex and call somebody who can get it done. Right. So you have to come to grips with that as an administrator. But if you winning, you don't care.
Right. That's dope, man. Wow. All right. So we got to support Deion over there at Jackson State. Mr. Taylor, this is great. And I wanted to ask you one last thing. You've written for multiple publications, covering teams for a long time. What do you think of the current sports landscape, a sports media landscape? I just finished watching, or we did, Fox and ESPN wrestle over Skip Bayless again. It's like the same voices being kicked back and forward, and it's only a small number of companies that's kind of really controlling the mainstream media. So I want to know, what do you think of the current landscape, and what do you have going on with JJT Media Group?
It's the current. I mean, I don't consider whatever that show is, Undisputed. I can't remember. I think that's it. Yes. Skips on.
Yes.
And whatever Marcellus Wiley does, Speak Up. But I don't watch those shows.
Okay.
Or First Take. I don't watch any of that. Now I give props to the people who had those jobs and those opportunities. And anytime you can make 7 digits, it's all good. There's nothing ever wrong with making 7 digits. But I don't like those shows and I don't watch them because those are sports debate shows. And I've done First Take with Skip. I did it several times, somewhere around 2010. I was flying from Dallas to Bristol several times. And I will say this, Skip is more authentic than you think. He just thinks differently. But I don't like those shows because they're debate shows. If you're debating, somebody got to pick one side, somebody got to pick the other side. And then you have to have a confrontational conversation because we're debating. Right. So I don't watch it because I think they contrived and they debate about bullshit nobody cares about.
Right.
But that's just me. I teach a class at SMU on sports journalism. And they asked me to teach it. And I was interested in teaching it. because my whole thing was I want to teach people how to do it the right way. ESPN and Fox, they reward you for the louder that you scream, the more you get paid. And so I can't really fault people who start screaming louder and louder and louder. Now, most people think, oh, you must be talking about Stephen A. Not really. You could be talking about somebody like Dan Orlovsky. Listen to how Dan Orlovsky talks now and his opinions that he has, and compare them to how he talked a year ago or 2 years ago. He's much more definitive now, and he's much, it's a nuanced thing, but they just talk louder in hopes of getting more attention, in hopes of getting more people tuning in so that they can go make more money. And that's cool if that's what you want to do. I don't begrudge anybody making 7 or 8 digits. So, that is what it is. As for me, I've had a tremendous career. I'm the only person to ever go from being an intern to a general columnist at the Dallas Morning News. In its 145-year history or whatever it is. And then I left there and I went to ESPN. And my first 2 years at ESPN were fabulous, probably the best work years I ever had. But then the job changed through no fault of my own. ESPN is one of those companies that's forever evolving. They change for change's sake a lot of times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But they're forever changing. And so they changed what they brought me in to do, which is write columns about Dallas. It changed. And at the end, they had me writing, like briefs and stuff. Now, if you want to pay somebody a bunch of money to do that, that's kind of dumb on your part. But ultimately, I got laid off for that with, 250 or 300 other people. So it wasn't a personal thing. And I got laid off in the year where I had the most success, won a couple of awards. I mean, so, and the point to all of that is, so I did that. And then in the midst of being that, I got a radio show on ESPN. So I had 2 jobs. And so when I got laid off, I just became doing radio full time. And then I became a Cowboys insider for the NBC affiliate in Dallas. And I did that for 2 years. And then when my contract expired, they were like, we can't pay enough. Okay, cool. And then I took my radio show with my partner to the best ratings that it ever had at that time slot. And this is a funny story to me. We had gone when the pandemic started, obviously people's listening habits changed. Mm-hmm. Our ratings dropped all the way to 31, last in Dallas, Fort Worth, the bottom. Nobody worse than us. We the bottom. 7 months later, we were number 11 because the show was good. Mm-hmm. 6 weeks after that, they said ESPN is going to a national format, so all y'all are getting fired. Mm-hmm. So my point is, I've been laid off twice in the last 4 years, basically 3 times in the last 4 years. And at that point, a couple of weeks before that news came, I had told my wife, I'm gonna start this media company because I had some ideas. And if I ever get laid off again, I'm not going to work for nobody else. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do this thing myself. And so we had 6 weeks from the time they told us they were going to a national format. And during that 6 weeks, again, our show was good. So I talked to my partner, Matt, and I was like, yo, let's just turn this into a podcast and keep it running. He thought it was a good idea. And so the day after, we had a podcast rolling the day after the show ended on the radio. And we've had it ever since. And so that's one element of my business is the podcast. The other thing I do is I write personal stories. So you might say, well, what's a personal story? I call them frame memories. And so I write a lot of them about love stories. People celebrate their anniversaries, how you met, how you fell in love, why you love this person. I write them about celebrations of life and people die. I write them about companies, how the company came forth and how it is right now, and they put it on their website. So I do that. We do our podcast on the highest rated radio station in Dallas on Sundays. So that's once a week. I work for a TV station out of Houston doing interviews for former Cowboys and other people, creating content for them. Mm-hmm. And so the point is, I do a whole lot of stuff. Yeah. But I have more fun than I've ever had. And frankly, I think it's been November, December, January, February, March. So it's been 5 months since I got laid off. And I've probably made more money running my own business than I have at the radio show in 3 of those 5 months. Wow. Or 2 of those 5 months. And now, I got a lot of projects going, and, because it's only been 5 months. So the more you do and the more you put it out there and the more people see the different types of things that you can do, the more phone calls you get and the more opportunities you get. And I would tell you, it's a trip, because I've had 3 new people reach out to me this week. I know them, but they're like, hey, I just had an idea how we can collaborate and do something. Let's have a meeting and talk about it, see if we can get it going. Right. And so I've had a couple of those, 3 of those this week. And so, dude, I'm having more fun than I've ever had. I'm doing more different things, but it's all the skill set that I created over the last 25 years. That's put me in position to do it now. Like, if you look at my backdrop, that's my radio logo and my company logo in the backdrop, because I end up doing work all the time. And so I'm really busy. I was telling a friend of mine yesterday, it's so good to actually be busy, not busy work where I'm trying to make myself look busy, right, but I actually got shit to do. And, I got deadlines to meet and stuff to get done. And, I think I was in my office yesterday. I walked in here at 9 and I walked out at about 4, but I was having a good time the whole time I was at work.
That's dope. Man, Mr. Taylor, that was amazing. Thank you for joining me, man. How can we support you? How can we keep in touch, follow up?
I would say you can go check out, you can go listen to the podcast if you like Dallas Cowboys football, the NFL, and craft beer, because we end up spending a lot of time talking about craft beer because that's my partner's thing.
Got you.
At jamsessionpodcast.com, or if you'd like for me to write one of your personal stories, whether it's your journey from corporate America to your own business, or why you love your wife or your husband. You can go check me out at JJTmediagroup.com. Shoot me an email and we can get it going.
All right, sounds good. Mr. Jean-Jacques Taylor, thank you.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate it.